If you've ever been sabotaged by your own family, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You're not going to want to miss what happened next. The Princeton Merit Scholarship was worth $140,000. Full ride. 4 years of tuition, room, board, and a stipend for a first-generation college student studying educational policy. I'd worked 3 jobs through high school to afford SAT prep courses. I'd spent weekends at the library instead of parties. My essay on reforming rural education access had made the selection committee cry. I was 17 years old, sitting in that scholarship interview room, when my 22-year-old sister Valerie walked in uninvited. "I need to speak," she announced to the 5-person panel. Our mother sat in the corner, silent. She'd driven us both there but hadn't said a word when Valerie climbed into the car that morning. The scholarship coordinator, Dr. Patricia Morrison, looked confused. "Miss Chen, this is your sister Emma's interview time. I'm here to provide context the committee needs to hear." Valerie had dressed in a blazer I'd never seen before. Her hair was professionally styled. She placed a folder on the table. "My sister is academically talented, yes. But she lacks the maturity and focus for a program of this caliber." My throat closed. I couldn't breathe. "Emma changes her mind constantly," Valerie continued, her voice steady and practiced. "She'd rehearsed this. She wanted to be a doctor last year. A lawyer the year before. She doesn't have the follow-through Princeton requires. I, on the other hand, have already completed 2 years at State University with a 3.9 GPA in education. I'm focused. I'm proven." Dr. Morrison's face hardened. "Miss Chen, your sister applied for the Princeton scholarship. You did not. This is highly irregular. I'm applying now." Valerie slid papers across the table. I brought my transcripts, my recommendation letters, and my proposal for how I'd use this opportunity more effectively. "Emma will waste it on some vague educational policy degree. I'll become a teacher who actually helps students." My mother finally spoke. "Valerie has always been more practical." The room spun. I looked at each committee member. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked angry. But they were listening. They were actually considering it. "I deserve this more than you," Valerie said directly to me. "You'll waste it." I stood up. My legs shook but I kept my voice level. "I understand." I walked out of that room, down the hallway and out to the parking lot. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I called my guidance counselor, Mr. Howard, who'd helped me with my application. "Emma, how did it go?" "My sister just tried to steal my scholarship interview." Silence. Then, "Stay there. Don't leave. I'm calling Dr. Morrison right now." What I didn't know was that Mr. Howard wasn't just my guidance counselor. He was a Princeton alumnus. He was on the scholarship advisory board. And he was recording every word Valerie had said through the door, because he'd arrived early and heard the commotion. The committee deliberated for 3 hours. Valerie was escorted out by security. My mother left with her, shooting me a look that said I'd humiliated the family. Dr. Morrison called me back in alone. "Miss Chen, we are appalled by what just occurred. Your scholarship is secured. But I need you to understand something." She leaned forward. "Your sister submitted fraudulent documents. The recommendation letters she provided were forged. We've contacted the faculty members whose signatures she used. None of them wrote those letters." My stomach dropped. "What happens to her?" "That's a legal matter now. We're referring this to the university's integrity board and potentially law enforcement. Document forgery for financial gain is a serious crime." I got the scholarship. Full $140,000. I also got something else that day. Absolute clarity about who my family really was. My mother didn't speak to me for 6 months. When she finally called, it was to tell me that Valerie had been expelled from State University for the forgery incident. The fallout had been extensive. Criminal charges were filed but eventually dropped to a misdemeanor with probation. But the academic consequences were permanent. She was blacklisted from every major university system in the state. "You need to fix this," Mom said. "You need to tell Princeton it was a misunderstanding." "No. Emma, she's your sister. She made a mistake. She tried to destroy my future for her convenience. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." I hung up. That was 2015. I went to Princeton and I didn't just survive. I dominated. I completed my undergraduate degree in educational policy in 3 years while working as a research assistant for Dr. Morrison herself, who became my mentor. She introduced me to the dean of the School of Public and International Affairs. I started my master's program at 20, focused on college access and financial aid reform. My thesis was on scholarship fraud and academic integrity violations. I interviewed over 200 students who'd been victims of application sabotage by family members, friends, and counselors. The research was groundbreaking. It was published in 3 major education journals. Forbes featured it in a piece on first-generation college students. By 23 I had my PhD. My dissertation on reforming college admissions to prevent family interference earned me job offers from 7 universities. I chose Whitmore University, a prestigious private institution in Connecticut, as their assistant dean of admissions. At 24, I was the youngest person to hold that position in the university's 180-year history. I built my life deliberately. I bought a small house near campus. I published regularly. I spoke at conferences. I dated carefully and eventually met James, an economics professor who respected my work and my boundaries. We married quietly at City Hall. I sent my mother graduation announcements. She never responded. I sent a wedding invitation. Returned unopened. I didn't reach out again. I had colleagues who became friends. I had James's family who treated me like a daughter. I had students who sent me thank you notes years after graduation, telling me how my advocacy for first-generation students had changed their lives. I didn't need the people who'd tried to sabotage me. By 30 I was promoted to Dean of Admissions. I oversaw a $340 million financial aid budget and a department of 47 people. I reformed our scholarship programs to include protection protocols for applicants. I created a confidential reporting system for students experiencing family interference. Our retention rates for first-generation students increased by 34% in 3 years. Valerie's name never crossed my mind. I'd moved on completely. Until last month. My assistant Jennifer buzzed my office. Dean Chen, there's a walk-in applicant for the adjunct teaching position in the education department. She doesn't have an appointment but says it's urgent. I was buried in budget reviews. Can she schedule through the portal like everyone else? She's insisting she knows you personally. Says her name is Valerie Chen. My pen stopped mid-signature. 8 years. 8 years of silence. Send her in. I closed my laptop. I straightened my desk. I pulled a specific file from my locked drawer, one I'd kept for nearly a decade just in case. Then I folded my hands and waited. The woman who walked into my office looked nothing like the confident, cruel person who'd sabotaged me in 2015. Valerie's blazer was worn at the elbows. Her shoes were scuffed. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She carried a folder. Just one, not the professional portfolio she'd brought to destroy me. Her eyes widened when she saw the nameplate on my desk. Dean Emma Chen, Admissions. Emma. Her voice cracked. I didn't know you worked here. I mean, I knew a Dean Chen, but I didn't think. Sit down, Valerie. She sat. Her hands shook as she placed her folder on my desk. I'm applying for the adjunct position in the education department. Introduction to Teaching Methods. I have my resume, my references. Why Whitmore? She swallowed hard. I've been working as a substitute teacher for 6 years. I have my teaching certificate from an online program. But it's not enough. I can't get a full-time position anywhere without a graduate degree or college-level teaching experience. I'm 33 years old and I'm making $28,000 a year. And you thought applying here was a good idea. I didn't know you were the dean. The job posting just said to submit materials to the admissions office. I've applied to 47 colleges in 3 states. Whitmore was just another application. She leaned forward. Emma, I need this. I'm barely surviving. My loans from state are in default. I'm living in a studio apartment with 2 roommates. I can't afford health insurance. This position would change everything. I opened her folder. Her resume was sparse. Community college courses. Substitute teaching. A gap from 2015 to 2017 labeled, personal leave. What happened during this gap? Her face flushed. I was dealing with legal issues. From the Princeton situation. The forgery conviction. It was reduced to a misdemeanor. I completed probation. It shouldn't disqualify me from. It doesn't. I closed her folder. Your criminal record isn't why you won't get this job, Valerie. Hope flickered in her eyes. Then I have a chance? Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. I opened my desk drawer. I pulled out a file I'd labeled Princeton Scholarship 2015 Personal Archive. Valerie's face went white. What is that? This, I said calmly, is documentation of what you did 8 years ago. I've kept every piece of evidence. Dr. Morrison's incident report. The security footage of you being escorted out. The forged recommendation letters with handwriting analysis. The scholarship board's official statement. The police report. The University Integrity Board's findings. I slid a document across the desk. This is a letter from State University confirming your expulsion for academic dishonesty. This is the misdemeanor conviction record. This is a sworn statement from Mr. Howard about what he witnessed. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. I also have this. I pulled out a slim folder. This is my published research on scholarship fraud and family sabotage. Pages 73 through 89 detail a case study. Subject is anonymous but every fact is accurate. Sister attempts to steal scholarship interview. Submits forged documents. Gets caught. Faces criminal charges. Victim goes on to earn PhD and becomes Dean of Admissions. Valerie's hands were shaking so badly her resume slid off the edge of my desk. You wrote about me? I wrote about a pattern of behavior I witnessed and experienced. Your story isn't unique, Valerie. 17% of first-generation scholarship recipients report family interference. What you did was predictable. Almost textbook. I was young. I was stupid. I was jealous. Her voice broke. Emma, I've spent 8 years paying for one mistake. It wasn't a mistake. My voice didn't rise. I didn't need to yell. Mistakes are accidental. You planned this. You rehearsed with Mom. You forged legal documents. You walked into that room intending to destroy my future to benefit yourself. I know. I know what I did. Tears streamed down her face. Don't you think I've suffered enough? I lost everything. My degree. My reputation. Any chance at a real career. I've been punished, Emma. I've been punished for 8 years. And I built a life. I stood up. I went to Princeton. I earned 3 degrees. I became the youngest dean in this university's history. I reformed financial aid systems to protect students from people exactly like you. I married a man who respects me. Have a career I love. Your sabotage didn't break me. It clarified who deserved a place in my life. My office door opened. Jennifer stood there with a security guard and another woman in a sharp suit. Dean Chen, this is Mariah Rodriguez from our HR compliance department, Jennifer said. You asked me to invite her when Ms. Chen arrived. Valerie looked between us, confused and panicked. What's happening? Mariah sat down, opening her own folder. Ms. Chen, I need to inform you that your application for employment at Whitmore University has been flagged during our standard background verification process. What? Why? Our policy requires disclosure of any academic integrity violations or criminal convictions related to fraud or forgery. Your application listed neither your expulsion from State University nor your 2015 misdemeanor conviction. Mariah's voice was professional and cold. This constitutes falsification of employment records, which is grounds for immediate disqualification and potential legal action. Valerie's face went from white to green. I didn't think I had to include, it was 8 years ago. The application explicitly asks, have you ever been expelled or suspended from any educational institution for academic dishonesty? You checked no. Mariah slid the application across the desk. That's perjury on a legal document. I'm also required to inform you, I added quietly, that I recused myself from reviewing your application the moment Jennifer mentioned your name. Mariah and our legal team have handled this entirely independently. I'm here as a witness only. That was a lie. I'd orchestrated this. I'd asked Jennifer to delay Valerie in the waiting room while I made calls. I'd requested Mariah run a full background check. I'd ensured everything was documented, legal, and absolutely bulletproof. But Valerie didn't know that. She just knew she was trapped. This is revenge, she whispered. You're punishing me. I'm protecting my university from someone who commits fraud. I sat back down. Mariah, what are the next steps? Ms. Chen's application is rejected. Her name will be flagged in our system to prevent future applications. We're also obligated to report this falsification to the State Education Board, as she currently holds a teaching certificate. They'll investigate whether her certificate was obtained through similar omissions. Valerie stood abruptly, knocking her chair backward. You can't do this. I need that teaching certificate. It's the only thing I have left. The security guard stepped forward. Valerie backed away. You did this to yourself, I said. 8 years ago you chose to cheat. Today you chose to lie on an official application. Neither of those decisions involved me. I'm just the person in a position to recognize the pattern. I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister the day you tried to steal my future. Mariah stood. Miss Chen, you need to leave the premises immediately. If you attempt to contact any Whitmore employee regarding this matter, we'll pursue harassment charges. Valerie looked at me one last time. Her face was streaked with mascara. Her whole body trembled. I've lost everything. Doesn't that matter to you at all? I met her eyes. You taught me exactly how much I was worth to you. I just raised my price. Security escorted her out. The door closed. Mariah turned to me. Dinshin, I need to ask. Did you know she would falsify her application? I suspected. People who commit fraud once often do it again. It's documented in my research. I handed her my published study. Page 112. Recidivism rates among academic fraudsters. Mariah smiled slightly. You're terrifyingly thorough. I'm a dean. It's my job. That evening I went home to James. He poured me wine while I sat at our kitchen table staring at nothing. How did it go? He asked gently. Exactly as predicted. I took a sip. She lied on her application. She's blacklisted. Her teaching certificate is under investigation. She left crying. How do you feel? I thought about it. Empty. Not satisfied. Not guilty. Just empty. James sat beside me. You didn't cause this, Emma. You just didn't prevent it. I could have warned her. I could have told her we do thorough background checks. I could have given her a chance to withdraw her application. Would she have warned you before she walked into that scholarship interview? The question sat between us. We both knew the answer. My phone buzzed. My mother. I hadn't heard from her in 8 years. The text read, Valerie told me what you did. How dare you ruin her life again? She's your sister. You're a vindictive, heartless person. I'm ashamed I raised you. I stared at the message. Then I typed back, you didn't raise me. Princeton did. Dr. Morrison did. People who believed I deserved opportunities one earned. You enabled someone who committed fraud against your own daughter. That's who should be ashamed. I blocked her number. Then I blocked Valerie's. James squeezed my hand. You okay? Yeah. I was surprised to realize I meant it. I'm done carrying their weight. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to set boundaries with toxic family, because what happened next proved I'd made the right choice. 3 days later, Jennifer forwarded me an email. The State Education Board had opened a formal investigation into Valerie's teaching certificate. Apparently, her application for certification had also omitted her expulsion and conviction. She checked no on the same question. Have you ever been dismissed from any educational institution for academic dishonesty? Her certificate was suspended pending investigation. Every school district in the state was notified. She lost her substitute teaching positions immediately. 1 week after that, I received a certified letter from a law firm. Valerie was suing me for intentional interference with employment prospects and abuse of administrative power. I handed it to Whitmore's general counsel. He read it, laughed, and filed a motion to dismiss. Dinshin, you recused yourself from her application review. You followed every protocol. Her employment rejection was based entirely on her own false statements. This lawsuit won't survive summary judgment. He was right. The suit was dismissed within 30 days. Valerie was ordered to pay Whitmore's legal fees. $8,400 she definitely didn't have. But the lawsuit triggered something else. The publicity. Local education blogs picked up the story. Applicant sues dean after fraudulent application exposed. They didn't name Valerie, but they detailed the case. My published research was cited. Journalists started investigating. Within 2 months, 3 major news outlets had covered the story of scholarship fraud and family sabotage. My research was featured on NPR. I was invited to testify before a congressional subcommittee on education reform. The attention led to funding. A $2.3 million grant from the Department of Education to create a national reporting database for scholarship interference. Whitmore was chosen to host the program. I hired 5 new staff members. We built partnerships with 180 universities across 40 states. We created protection protocols, legal resources, and counseling services for students experiencing family sabotage. In the first year, we helped 847 students protect their scholarship applications from family interference. 12 cases resulted in criminal fraud charges against family members. 73 students received emergency housing assistance when their families retaliated. I named the program the Morrison Initiative, after Dr. Patricia Morrison, who'd protected me when I needed it most. 6 months ago, Dr. Morrison retired from Princeton. At her farewell dinner, she pulled me aside. "Emma, I need you to know something." She was 81 years old, her hands shaking slightly. "When your sister walked into that interview room, I knew we had a choice. We could quietly handle it and protect you from trauma. Or we could document everything and give you weapons you might need later. You knew I'd need the documentation. I knew people who sabotage once often do it again. I knew you were brilliant and you'd go far. I knew you might face her again someday." He squeezed my hand. "I'm so proud of who you've become. Not in spite of what she did, but because you transformed that pain into protection for others." I cried. For the first time in 8 years, I let myself cry about it. Last week I received a letter. Not email. An actual handwritten letter, forwarded through 7 addresses before reaching me. It was from Valerie. "Emma, I know you won't read this. I know I don't deserve your attention. But I need to write it anyway. I've spent 8 years making excuses. Blaming you for being talented. Blaming Mom for pressuring me to be perfect. Blaming the system for being unfair. The truth is simpler and worse. I was jealous. You were 17 and already smarter, harder working, and more focused than I'd ever been. I couldn't stand it, so I tried to destroy you. I told myself I deserved that scholarship because I'd worked hard too. But I didn't work as hard as you. I didn't sacrifice like you did. I just wanted what you'd earned without earning it myself. When you became successful anyway, I told myself it was luck. When you became a dean, I told myself you'd gotten special treatment. When I lost my teaching certificate, I told myself you'd ruin me out of spite. I'm in therapy now. Court ordered after the lawsuit. My therapist made me write down every choice I made that led here. The list was 47 items long. You weren't responsible for a single one. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a response. I just needed you to know that I finally understand. You didn't ruin my life. I did. 8 years ago and again 8 months ago and probably a dozen times in between. You deserved that scholarship. You earned your degrees. You built your career through talent and work. I tried to steal from you because I wasn't willing to build my own. I'm working at a grocery store now. Night shift, stocking shelves. It's honest work. It's all I'm qualified for. Maybe that's exactly what I deserve. I hope you're happy. I mean that. I hope you have people who love you and work that fulfills you and a life that makes all those years of sacrifice worth it. I'm sorry. For all of it. Valerie. I read it twice. Then I filed it in the same drawer where I kept all the documentation from 2015. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I would. Maybe I wouldn't. But I didn't owe her closure, forgiveness, or redemption. I'd built something beautiful from the ashes of her cruelty. I'd turned my pain into a program that protected hundreds of students. I'd taken the worst thing anyone had ever done to me and used it to make sure it happened to fewer people. That was enough. This semester we had a record 4,200 scholarship applications. 83 students used our confidential reporting system to flag family interference. We prevented 17 documented sabotage attempts. Every single one of those students got their scholarships. Every single one of them is safe. I think about them sometimes. These kids who almost lost everything because someone who should have protected them tried to steal from them instead. I think about how different their lives would be if no one had believed them, helped them, documented their truth. I think about 17-year-old Emma, walking out of that interview room, believing she'd lost everything. She had no idea what she was walking toward instead. Last month, James and I hosted a dinner for the Morrison Initiative Student Advisory Board. 12 first-generation college students, all of whom had experienced family sabotage, all of whom had survived and thrived anyway. They presented me with a plaque. To Dean Chin, who turned her pain into our protection. Thank you for believing us. I put it on my office wall, right next to my diplomas from Princeton. Every time Valerie's name crosses my mind, I look at that plaque. I look at my degrees. I look at the stack of thank you letters from students whose lives I've helped save. And I remember, paper beats promises every single time. If you've ever had to walk away to save yourself, tell me your story in the comments. What would you have done in my position? Does any of this feel familiar? Because here's what I've learned. You don't owe loyalty to people who actively harm you even if they're family. You don't owe forgiveness to people who aren't genuinely sorry. You don't owe access to people who've proven they'll use that access to hurt you. You owe yourself protection. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself the chance to build a life with people who celebrate your success instead of sabotaging it. Valerie taught me that lesson 8 years ago. She reinforced it 8 months ago. I'm grateful for the clarity. I just wish it hadn't cost her everything to learn what I already knew. You can't steal your way into a life worth living. You have to earn it. And I did.